Mic check 1 2 1 2. We are going to start graphing angles today, and then we're going to talk about reference angles and coterminal angles. Now these angles are a little bit different than what you're used to, because they're going to, well, say go around a circle, because this unit is going to have a lot to do with the unit circle. So when you draw angles, your positive x-axis is known as the initial ray. That's where your angle is always going to start. And then you're going to go counterclockwise a certain number of degrees until you stop at what is known as the terminal ray. Now there's going to be multiple ways to get to that terminal ray, which we're going to discuss as coterminal angles. And then there's going to be what's known as a reference angle, which is going to tell you how far you are from the x-axis, but we'll get there in a minute. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about how you draw an angle in standard position when you're working on a XY coordinate plane. Positive angles go counterclockwise, negative angles go clockwise, and the direction that you're drawing is indicated by an arrow. Okay? So, let's draw a couple angles. 45 degrees. Well, the first thing you need to know about all these, we'll go back to the original. This is your starting, so we'll call that 0 degrees. And then every time you go to another axis, that is going to be an additional 90 degrees. So all the way around a circle, surprise, surprise, is 360 degrees. So to draw a 45-degree angle, really the only thing you need to do is draw an arrow starting at your initial ray, and there you go. That's it. Because it's always going to be based on the positive x-axis is where you're starting. So that's it. You just did 45 degrees, and it was counterclockwise because it is a positive angle. Negative 108 degrees, so it's negative. So we're going to go clockwise. We still start from the positive x-axis. We just went 90 degrees and a little bit more. And there is our negative 108 degree angle. Okay, here's the arrow that shows us which direction we went, and then obviously you draw your terminal ray. 320 degrees, it's positive, so we're going to start here and we're going to go to 90, 180, 270, and 40 degrees shy of 360 degrees of full rotation. So there you go. That's how you graph an angle in standard position in degrees. So you recently learned about radians as well. So to draw a radian degree or a radian angle, what you need to do is whatever works better for you. You can break it down in your head, so you know that 5 pi over 4 is a little bit more than 1 pi. It's actually 1/4 more than 1 pi. Or if you really, really have to, you can convert it to degrees, graph it that way. So here we go. We have 1 pi and then 1/4 more. That's how you draw 5 pi over 4. Negative pi over 6. Now that's 1/6 of a pi. So that's just right there. A little teeny tiny angle. Alright, so you need to be comfortable with both degrees and radians, but like I said, until you're used to it, if you really have to, just convert your degrees into radians, and there you go, graph it, and you're good to go. An angle of rotation is an angle that exceeds 1 full rotation in either degrees or radians. So to draw 800 degrees, you have to think about it for a minute. Here's 360. Here's 720. And now 800 would be an additional 80 degrees. So you're right there. That's how you graph an angle of rotation. So we know that 2 pi is 8 pi over 4. So you need to go 1 full rotation backwards. And now you need 1, 2, 3/4 more. And that is your negative 11 pi over 4. So yes, you can graph angles that are more than 360 degrees. You'll know it once you start seeing your spiral overlap. That's how you'll know that it's more than 360 degrees. All right, so that's how you draw angles. Now we're going to talk about a reference angle. Now there's a couple rules about a reference angle that you need to know before you start doing it. First of all, a reference angle is always positive. And a reference angle is always measured by the x-axis, never the y. It's always how far are you from the x-axis. And the last thing you need to always know about a reference angle is you give the reference angle in the measurement given. So if you're graphing in radians, your reference angle must be answered in radians. If you're graphing in degrees, you must answer in degrees. So we're going to draw and state the reference angle for 120 degrees. So that's positive. So we're going to go 120 degrees. That's the angle. We draw it. Now the reference angle is how far away are you from the x-axis. So you're always going to go down to the x-axis. So what is the measure of that angle? We drew 120. We're pretty close to 180. So we are 60 degrees away. So 60 degrees is your reference angle. The next one is 45 degrees. So we're just going to go straight to a 45-degree angle. And again, you need to ask yourself, how far are you from the x-axis? Well, that one's pretty simple. It's 45 degrees away. Notice we're keeping them positive. And the next is negative 527 degrees. So I would like you to pause and see if you can first graph that angle of rotation and then state what is your reference angle of negative 527. Go. If you have a reference angle of 13 degrees, you are good to go. Now what you had to do again is you do your full rotation, and then you had to go all the way another 167 degrees, and that's going to put you pretty close to 540. So all you had to do is subtract, and you get 13 degrees away from a 540 degree angle. And that's it. That's how you do reference angles. Now coterminal angles are angles that share a terminal ray. So here are 3 different ways to graph a 45-degree angle to give you an idea of what a coterminal angle is. So this one, 45-degree positive angle, as you see, is just a straight swoop from here to here, and that's it. But another way that you can graph that is you can do a full rotation. So this would be our full 360-degree rotation, brings us right back to our initial ray, and then 45 degrees more. So that is, again, the exact same way of drawing a 45-degree angle. And now you also know that you can go backwards. So if you were to go backwards 315 degrees, as you see, that's going to put us at the exact same place. And if you think about it in terms of reference angles, you are only 45 degrees away from the axis, no matter which way you graph it. All right, so a coterminal angle is an angle that shares the same terminal ray. So we've got one last question here for you. I would like you to draw this negative 10 pi over 3. I want you to state the reference angle. I want you to list one positive and one coterminal angle. And I want you to convert that measure into degrees. And if you can handle all that, then you've got a pretty solid foundation on drawing angles with reference angles and coterminal angles. Go give it a try. So let's see. The dark blue, that's drawing the angle. So if you were able to start here, go -1 full rotation, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4 pi over 3. You are correct. Now, your reference angle should be pi over 3. Because you got to remember, if you start in radians, you need to answer these questions in radians except for converting to degrees. So pi over 3 is your reference angle. A positive and negative coterminal angle. So how else can you get to this terminal ray? So you can do a positive 2 pi over 3. So if you went 1/3, 2/3. And you could also go just negative 4/3 pi. And that'll get you to the exact same terminal ray. And finally, to convert to degrees, you just multiply your radian measure by 180 over pi. Pi's will cancel. And negative 10 times 180 divided by 3 will give you negative 600 degrees. That's it. If you're able to handle that, then you have a pretty solid foundation on all sorts of stuff with angles. And this is Longo. See you bye.